my name is Tim. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back. Now this video is going to be broken down into two parts because there's a ton of stuff to talk about for intros. The first one is going to go over some really important concepts that you really need to know before even diving into making an intro. And then we're going to hop into Premiere Pro to show you some editing techniques that I use for my own intro. And then part two is going to put everything that I said in this video into practice and then show you 4 different kinds of intros that I'll make from scratch using my own principles so I can put some actions to the words that I'm saying, which means that regardless of whatever kind of channel that you have, whether it's cooking, fitness, photography, videography, board games, whatever it is, you name it, these concepts will apply across the board. So let's get into it. Now let me premise this by saying I am no way, shape, or form the master of making intros for videos, but these are just my own personal thoughts and opinions and things that I've learned that I want to share with you. Now the first concept I want to go over is music. Ask yourself this question: what song really resonates with me? What song shows my personality? And then ask yourself, what song would I have fun editing to? That's important because you don't want to dread the editing process. You want to have fun doing it. And when you have fun doing it, it's going to show in your edits. Music choice is a huge part of that. Now it may sound kind of cliche because I feel like this concept goes over people's heads really easily because like, oh, obviously music. But no, like really take time to find a song that connects with you and your video. Because think about it, this little 5 to 10 second video clip is going to go in all of your videos for the next year or so. This is like your 5 to 10 second showcase for every single piece of content that you have going forward. So it's important. Take your time. So the whole point of an intro is to showcase what your entire channel is about, what all your work is about in 5 to 10 seconds. Like for me personally, I can watch Peter McKinnon's and Casey Neistat's 368 intro over and over again, nonstop. Like those are really, really good examples of intros that just like get you ready to watch the rest of the video. I get excited to see them every time and I never skip them. Like if you're gonna spend time and investing into something that you make that showcases all your work, ideally, you want people not to skip it. So keep that in mind when you are picking your music choice. Now for me, if you ever seen any of my B-roll and like showcases, a lot of the songs that I use are very upbeat. They have very distinct hits. And it's something that kind of sticks in your head. It's something that you can kind of hum along to, right? Bum ba-da-dum, bum ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. See, I didn't even need a theme intro to think about the song that I use. But at the same time, they're not exactly happy-go-lucky songs like nothing bad with that, it's just that it's not my personal style and not the look that I'm going for when I'm making these kind of videos. So when you start narrowing down your song choices, you have a few to choose from. And ultimately what makes me choose the final song is to take a second to see whether or not I can visualize what I'm editing to that specific song. If I can't visualize a good amount of the song and what I would do for each part of it, I would just scrap it and move on to the next one. Like really take a second to visualize what your edits are gonna be. Like which transition is gonna work with this part of the song? When do I need to hit fast beats? When do I need to hit like elongated beats? Which ones do I need to match this part? All of that will help you narrow down your song choice. Now to bring it back to the baseline, ask yourself this simple question. Can you edit this song to the beat? Let me show you 2 separate clips. Which one is more interesting? It's probably the second one, right? Now when people see the second intro, they're more inclined to say like, oh wow, this is really cool stuff. Or this looks way more professional. Like this is the level of work I expect to see when I start watching the rest of their work. So these kind of thoughts are going to blanket the rest of your videos and people are going to expect that level of work. And that's a very good thing. So number one, take time to pick your song very carefully and then be able to visualize what you're going to edit to that specific song. Number 2, what is the message that you're trying to portray across your channel? For me, it's about board games, photography, tech, reviews, and those kind of words I include explicitly in my intros. Why? Well, it's because it's everything I'm interested in. And then I have one big message, which is board games shown in a whole new way. And that's my hook for the audience because that's pretty much how this channel started. So I do both. I include an overall message and then I include the list of things that my channel is about. So like if you don't want to show a message, totally fine. You can just list what you do. You know, family, vlogs, cooking. Now if you choose not to use any kind of text for your message or for your list, just make sure it's obvious what you're doing and what your channel is about if it's just all visual. So let's say your channel is about making specialty cakes. It may not be the most obvious to everyone that's watching your videos if you are showing clips of you going to like the hardware store and buying all these kind of tools in order to make the cake all fancy and special. Obviously it makes more sense if you're showing yourself like rolling out the dough and like pudding flour. I don't know how to make, but you get my example, right? Show things that are relevant to what your channel is about and are very, very obvious. Now, the last thing, aside from music and aside from your overall message or list of things your channel is about, is I want you to think about what your intro is going to start with and what it's going to end with, because then the rest will follow. Again, we have a very, very, very short window to show everyone what our channel is about. So you want to make sure that the clips that you're picking are very specifically curated. Make sure your best clips are in this sequence. So starting and ending, think about how you want to make an impact in the beginning. Think about how you want to make an impact at the end, and then the rest will follow. Now let's dive into Premiere and I'll show you some editing techniques that I used for my own intros. Okay, now in this song specifically, there are two really nice bounce beats in the beginning in which I wanted to hit through animations of both the logo and the motion graphics text. So first off, let me show you how to animate the logo. That way, in case you have your own, you can do something similar. So what I like to do first actually is always expand my audio. That way I can see where the bounces are. If you look at this peak right here, that's where the first bounce is, right? So as I scrub up, boom, that's where that beat is. And then when it drops back down, so does the logo. So to do that, super simple. All you have to do is click on your picture. And then up in this corner right here, you'll see a bunch of dots, which I've already done previously. But to keep it simple, we're going to put a keyframe. A keyframe is basically a starting and stopping point for different animations. So for example, I'm going to put a keyframe here for position, meaning the logo is going to be at this spot that you define here. Secondly, it's going to be scale. Scale is how small or big you want it to be. So you can't see it right now, but the logo is actually in the center. And then that's where the position is, where it starts. And scale, of course, is at 0 because there's no size to it. But I want it to become really, really big right when it hits that peak. So see how scale reaches this little keyframe right here, right? So this is the first size, which is 110. Position, you'll see the numbers off to the side here, meaning it is centered in the middle. And then I'm going to bring it down so that way it bounces in size. So I set another keyframe here at 100, which means it's going to go big and then it's going to go a little bit smaller just so you get that bounce. And then remember how I said you want to think about your very first clip and your very last clip? A lot of my videos and photos always revolve around the elements. Not only because it's kind of like my style, but also something that I really like to integrate into my work, and also it looks cool. So the very first clip I wanted to show was fire, and then I wanted to end with water. Ever see that coming? Now a really cool way to transition your logo is to make it appear as if it is fading into your next clip. All you have to do is put your very first clip. For me, it is this Lords of Palace fire clip right here, which I will, let me turn this off real quick so you can see. Okay, so this very first fire clip is what I wanted to show, right? Super intense, grabs them right away so you can see all the flames and smoke in the helmet. For me, this is that hook that I was talking about. All you have to do is put the clip in a layer above your logo, and then you just make it fade in. So just like with position and with scale, this time we're going to use something called opacity. Opacity is how it's going to fade in and fade out, or vice versa, fade out into fade in. So what I did first is set it to 0 right at this point here, and then it's going to fade in to the next beat right here to 100. And then as soon as it hits 100, you'll see that it starts appearing right when I start dissipating the logo here too. Okay, so I'm slowly making it fade in and fade out. Now the second thing you want to do after you change opacity, if you keep it at normal, that's when you can see the entire clip in the background. We don't want that. We just want the screen to show. So in order to fix that, all I have to do is go to this drop-down menu here, click on screen, and then you'll see that it shows just in the logo right here. Normally, you would want to make a mask in order to show everything, but actually just set it to screen and then put your opacity from 0 to 100. And then right after that, you start fading out your logo. So same exact thing. Can you guess what I'm going to do next? Yes. Right, I'm going to fade out my logo. So you see this division here. Okay, now my opacity is going to go from 100 and, you guessed it, all the way down to 0. Soon as it hits 0, that clip is going to disappear, and then we transition into the full fire clip. So that's how I start off mine, and let's watch it back. Right, all that for less than a second. So quick animations for your logo, set position. Normally it looks nice for it to just stay in the center. That way you can scale it, making it small or big, And then you're going to fade it in, fade it out using the opacity slider. All those are keyframes. You're setting your start point and your end point. And you match those to the beat. So that way it looks nice and it bounces right when that first beat hits. Just like this. Okay, so that is a quick technique that you can use to animate your logo. You can also do the same thing with text. Now, speaking of text, let's talk about that next. The first thing I opened up with is my name to introduce everyone to the channel. Motion graphics are animated text, and it looks so much better than just slapping text on there and having it static on screen. I personally use Peter McKinnon's motion graphics text because A, he's my hero. B, he taught me everything. C, it saves a ton of time. And D, I want to support my favorite creator. So, one day, eventually, I would love to have my own set of motion graphics, but I haven't really developed that eye for animating text yet. It's totally different from having an eye for video and stuff. So, until I learn that, I just got Peter McKinnon's text, which I highly, highly recommend. It's super clean. But if not, let me show you a different way you can animate this as well. So, and then I'm going to start off by pressing T on your keyboard for text. Drag a layer out here and then type, put my name. Then we're going to go over to Essential Graphics. Make the size of this bigger so we can see. And for now, we'll just make it black so it's just very visible. Okay. So let's animate this in a similar way to the logo. I'm going to make it big. I'm going to have it bounce so it goes small, and then I want to have it go up vertically. Okay. I'm going to go over first to the position slider, and I'm going to drag my text to the middle, right about here. Then I'm going to set my first keyframe for position. So let's make it the scale 300, set a keyframe there, and then set your position keyframe at the same spot. And then I'm going to move up a couple of frames. So I heard that first drum beat. Okay, now I want it to be small, also centered. So in order to do that, we're going to change the scale. Let's make it 120. And then your position, you can drag also in the center. There you go. Okay, so starts off big, just like the logo. Hits right when the drum hits, and then I have a second hit here. Okay, so right then and there, you want it to stay on the screen static just for a moment. That way people can read it. And then I want it to shift up as you go into the next clip, which is for vindication. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the text all the way so it ends right before the second clip. And then I want it to move up. In order to do that, let's say I want it to move up starting from, oh my God, it's so slow. Here. Okay, so see how this peak is starting to decline downwards? That's a nice way to do the transition your text outside of the clip. So I'm going to set a position marker there. That way it's stagnant until that point, and then I'm going to move my text all the way to the end. I'm going to go to the end of the clip and then move my text up. That way it's going to move outside by the end of the clip. So all you have to do now is highlight your text, go to your Y axis, and then just drag it so it moves all the way up outside of the frame. And looking back at it, right, oh, that's cool. See, so that's the easy way to animate your text, quick and easy. Now let's look back to our logo and text together. Clean, right? So now let's break down the next few clips. Go into vindication, a drag backwards for tapestry. You hear like there's like a wind sound effect there. So that one is actually from the original clip when I was pulling back in that camera angle. And then we go to my overall message, which is board games in a whole new way. Okay, so let me show you how those texts are animated as well. Those right there are just quick clips back to back. Text is just simple, it's just right in the middle until we get to the part that says whole. So when I did the cinematic wood inserts B-roll, this is the part where I masked one of the wooden components that transitions into the other base one. So I think this is a really cool one that I can break down for you. First off, let's look at how we animated whole. But before I break this down, let me ask you this. Can you already guess what we did? I'm pretty sure you can by now, right? There are two things that change here. One is position, of course, because we're moving the text from the bottom to the top of the screen. Secondly, I didn't go over this one, but you can kind of guess. Whole is not horizontal. It's not at a 100-degree angle. So I just rotated it. So just like position, I also animated a keyframe for rotation, starting at the very beginning. So that way the text looks like it's sitting on top of that piece of wood and it's just being dragged all the way up top. So what you want to do is set your size, of course, your font and everything, color of the text. I made sure this is black since my entire screen is white. So if you look here, my position, I animated each one by one along this blue line over here. And then I also set my rotation because the rotation does change as you move throughout the clip. So if you look at it here, you're setting your position every single time and your rotation does change because the angle of the wood changes as you move. So make sure you set rotation and position and just go frame by frame until this goes all the way off the screen. Okay. Now the more difficult one that I wanted to show you was when new started coming in. So in order to do this one, you're going to make a mask. Now in order to make a mask, you're going to click right underneath opacity. There is this pen tool. So you're going to click on the pen tool. You're going to click on path, feather, opacity, and expansion. Let me talk about those individually. Path is where it's going to go instead of having distinct lines. Feather is able to merge the clips more seamlessly. Opacity, of course, you know what that is already. That's just the fade in, fade out. And then expansion is just the size if you don't want to do it manually. So as we go to mask, I made this polygon shown here. And then you want to click off. You want to make sure inverted is clicked away. If you don't click inverted, that means the whole clip is going to show underneath. That's not what we want, right? We want the text to show as this frame is uncovering the next one. Right, so make sure you click off inverted. And then you'll see just a W show up here. And then as we move to the next one, you're going to move your mask up, right? Just like I did here. And then you just repeat frame after frame. Okay, so see how the polygon changes constantly after each one? Just like that. Okay, until eventually you won't even need a mask anymore. So right after this, it doesn't matter where it is because the whole word is uncovered. So now looking back at it, right, nice clean slate. So just in case it didn't make enough sense, let me break it down a different way. First, you want to click on your clip itself, the video clip. Make sure you're highlighted under program because if you click on reference, you won't be able to click it. Trust me, it's gone annoying for me in the past. And then you're going to click on the pen tool under opacity. Click on all these four. Even if you don't end up using them all, it's better to just have your starting point just in case you go back and decide that you will need them. Click on mask again to make sure your mask is highlighted on the clip. And then you want to start revealing the new text that I put underneath. So in order to do that, I'm just going to make a quick little box like this, just so I can see in the meantime. So first, without inverted highlighted, you see new. Okay, I think I mentioned earlier not to take it highlighted, but you can just play with this to see what works better. Now, in order for me to see the whole thing, I'm going to go ahead and click on inverted and then fix my rectangle, polygon, trapezoid. That way, all of it is uncovered so I can see exactly where I am. And then I'm going to click on inverted again. So now I start seeing just the W. So I'm going to clean this up by just moving it a little bit higher. And then click on this arrow. So now it's going to track that frame one frame forward. And a lot of times you have to do it manually because it won't be able to recognize where exactly you're tracking, unlike After Effects, the program. So then I'm just going to adjust my polygon in size from there. Move again. And then I can move this up here. So you can see, let's go back, and you just continue this till the end. So now when I start seeing frame by frame, you start seeing new being revealed. Looks much nicer than just slapping a text on the screen, right? So now looking back, let's look at our mask. There we go, much better, right? And let's review what we've done so far. We did, in the beginning, our logo, bounce to text. If my computer was a little bit faster. logo to text to text reveal and masking. So I showed you how to animate the logo, showed you how to animate some quick motion graphics text, and then also showed you how to make a mask to reveal your text. Again, for the masking, I know this one's probably the most difficult one. In case you don't know how to apply and use masks, that's totally fine. I'll use it in 3 different examples in the next video in part 2. So that way you see different examples of how to incorporate masking. I think masking personally is my favorite effect. But just so you have a quick introduction to what masking is and how you can use it to reveal text, here's a good example. I have 2 completely different clips, but as I want to reveal the text underneath, all you have to do is click on the pen tool, draw a shape. You can click invert on to see where the text is, and then click it off for the actual clip itself. And then you just start adjusting your shape as each frame moves off the screen. Okay, but if you want a more detailed breakdown of masking, let me know and I can totally do that too. Moving on to the next clip, we go into this one I did for Lords of Hellas as well. So this one again was just motion graphics. As you can guess, I just use position and rotation in order to move this text away. So it looks like it's attached to the miniature. Now after my message, next up I just list 2 things that my channel is about. One is photography tips. Secondly is gear reviews. Although of course board games is a big part and tutorials, I figured since almost all the clips are about board games, I figured I didn't need to explicitly state that. So I want to mention 2 other things in breaking down this intro that I hope you find helpful. The next one is how are you going to end your intro? For me, what I like to do is I put either a nice set of my initials. Photographers always have that nice little branding at the end. So I wanted just my initials at the end, since I already mentioned my full name in the beginning, or at least like a signature would also be really nice on a black screen. But what's really important that I think a lot of people kind of overlook and that you don't really see or hear people talking about at least as often is that drum beat in the end. So to signal an ending, listen to the song for a second. So clearly the song doesn't end. If you look at my audio clip here, I use a little transition, so I'm just setting different markers on the audio clip. You can do that by just holding Command if you're on a Mac or Control if you're on a PC, and then your mouse is going to have this little plus option, which you can see here in the bottom. And then if I click on one point of the audio clip, it will show one little keyframe, which you can use to drag certain parts of the audio up and down. So that's what I did here. Secondly, you want to hear a part of your song where you can end it with a drum beat. Okay, let me play it again so you can hear it. Right, so the song itself is not ending, but because you're hitting a strong point, one beat, bum, ba-da, bum, that piece right there is where you can end your clip. And then if you look at the bottom here, I also include this little clip here, this little audio clip called a whoosh to hit 10, which I got from Epidemic Sound. So I'm going to mute this so you can hear just that beat. So these kind of beats, or like preludes, I think they're called, signal the ending or transition to the next clip, which is why I put one right at the end. Also looks very clean, right? So as this drum is building up, the waves are coming down, and then it's also fading into black. And lastly, when you hit that very strong, that very highest peak of the audio clip, that's when the signature appears. So it looks all succinct and all flows together, from the fade to black, from the water falling down, and from the signature logo appearing at the peak of the drum beat. All that plays well together. And signaling the end of the clip by using those audio points to drag it down so it just fades away. Put all those 4 together and you get something like this. And then you kind of hear that resonating drum just kind of going back down. And then what's nice is what's after this, your main video. So that is a breakdown of how I made my own intro. Second thing I also want to mention is if there's anything specifically that you want to see, let me know. For example, I think masking is probably the most difficult concept for, at least for me, to learn. So if it's something that you want to see broken down explicitly, I can totally do that too. Other than that, hope you learned a lot conceptually and in terms of techniques in Premiere Pro. In the next video, I'm going to make 3 completely different intros so you can see how all these concepts and techniques are applied across multiple fields and interests and what have you. So regardless of what your channel is about, regardless of what you're filming and what you're editing. But until then, I will see you all in part 2.